I am sorry for the length of this, but here I am and what I'm going through. In the wee hours of August 31st, I found out my girlfriend of 7 years was having at least one affair. I looked in her phone and found a whole slew of messages copied into the notes section of her iPhone over from the app Kick. For 2 weeks, we talked and I did some independent digging. In that time, she confessed to having had inappropriate relationship ranging from sending topless pics of herself to a long-term physical affair with 8 different people, 2 of whom were friends of mine. Another was my ex-wife and one was her uncle. On top of these 8 people, she also had emotional texting affair with several others, one of whom was another friend of mine. Another was her cousin's husband and a few others. This emotional affair may have been physical as well. She denies it, but at this high level of body count, does it really matter? The longest affair for the last 3 years was with my bandmate and friend. We played in a band that regularly gigged twice per month. She would always be dancing up a storm. We also spent plenty of time with the bandmate. He would come over for drinks on the weekend. On one occasion, I found out she gave him a BJ in my kitchen while I was entertaining other guests elsewhere in the house. Sounds like a train wreck. That's because it absolutely is. She has bipolar disorder, anxiety and depression, OCD, and borderline personality disorder, among other issues. I don't blame these issues as an excuse because I imagine there are plenty of people with the same issue that don't engage in this type of tornado behavior, but they do lend themselves to her choices and behavior. I believe that the borderline personality disorder contributed significantly to choosing a fair partner that she knew would hurt me. She also knew that my ex-wife was a cheater and that it had devastated me. I would never be like her, and I will show you that you can love and trust again, she would often say. And I did love her and trust her. I thought we would grow old together. One of the things about my wayward spouse is that she's strikingly good looking. At least everyone else thinks so. It was to the point that random guys would hit on her when we go out. Some of them would persist to the point that it would be downright creepy. This used to give her a lot of anxiety. She used to hate leaving the house for it. I often saw this happen and how it affected her mental health. I also tried to be a rock for her. Furthermore, her male friends that she had for a long time would also inevitably either confess their love for her or suddenly out of the blue send her a dick pic and she would show me, "Oh God, look what just happened." And I would believe that it was unsolicited. Showing me made me trust her. Her super intense affection for me also made me believe that I was the only one. For my part, I was nearly clueless. It was always clear that she wasn't normal, but I never had any suspicions that she was cheating until near the very end. A few things happened, and her manner of handling things and her explanation didn't quite add up. I toughed her on D-Day. We had a complicated living arrangement. She still rent a basement apartment 7 doors down the street from me, but we were for all practical purpose living at my house. Over the next 2 weeks, I was in a complete daze and barely functional. My 14-year-old daughter from a previous marriage even cooked dinner for me several times during this period because I was both emotionally and physically spent. Once out of the immediate fog, at around 2 to 3 weeks post D-Day, I resolved that I would cut off any possibility of reconciliation. Not only were her attempts to come clean not sufficient to believe I had not been trickle-truthed, but the extent of her cheating and the insanity of her choosing partners made reconciliation impossible for me. I also believed that her affairs were very likely to resume at some point in the future if they had even stopped at all. My view is that she's a sociopath. She manipulates me and everyone she encounters. She does it for money. She does it for emotional assurance. She does it for the thrill and ego boost. She does it to fill bottomless holes in her life. She also does it for revenge, for whatever petty manner she felt I slighted her. I feel completely used to it. I also feel sorry for some of her affair partners because, like me, she promised a few of them the moon and cast them aside when they were no longer useful. In short, she used me and them with no regards whatsoever for the trail of damage she was causing. She may have also deliberately created this chaos, and given what I know about borderline personality disorder, I'm leaning towards believing that. I don't think she had any sense of morality whatsoever. Any regrets or sadness she expressed in having got caught was likely simply an emotional response to losing that which I provided for her. Did she now or ever loved me? I honestly don't know. Truth be told, it's no longer a question that I need an answer. And yet, I constantly ask myself this question. How am I doing now? I'm terribly sad. I feel like there's been a death. It feels like half of me is missing. I feel an incredible emptiness and a lack of motivation towards anything. In the past 2 weeks, I have cried a lot. Before that, for some strange reason, I could barely cry at all. The tears just wouldn't come. Now, I recognize I am in a depression. I am completely broken. I feel like I am regressing back towards dysfunctionality. A few weeks ago, I started to eat better, sleep better, and go to the gym daily. In the first month, I lost 25 pounds. I gained back 5, and now I am losing again. I am a million miles away from being my old happy self again. I still think about her a lot, constantly. I wonder how she's doing. I wonder if she's sad like me. I wonder if she regrets what she's done. But I realize that it's pointless to ponder questions because they need no answers. And yet I can't stop. I need help. I will say it again. I really need help. I don't have a strong friend group. Most of my friends are guys that just aren't good at giving emotional support. Weeks go by before any of them would reach out to see how I'm doing. We're here for you, they say. But then it's right back to, oh look, Bitcoin is going up. I have a family friend that loves me dearly, but they are also poor at emotional support. They are the logical types. Just go over there. Just get over it. It's been 3 weeks. Time to get over it. I am in hell and I don't know how to get out. Please help. Therapy isn't an option. I have decided to list the APs in a separate post so as not to distract from the main. Here's a list of affair partners she had and a brief summary of what I know. Number 1, Andrew. She cleans house for cash under the table for a guy she previously and briefly dated. She used to tell me that he would always hit on her, but that she would reject his advances and always prefer doing the cleaning when he wasn't home. In her confession, after D-Day, she admitted that around the first year of our relationship, she landed in bed with him several times. Recently, just before D-Day, I heard them talking on the phone together for the first time ever, and her end sounded highly flirtatious. She denies that she had any physical relationship with him other than the several times in around the first year of our relationship, around 2014 to 2015. Number 2, Brandon, a married man that she briefly dated just before we started dating, 2014. At the time, she claimed to have stopped seeing him when she and I started dating. She claimed that she didn't know he was married, but the wife found out and she divorced him due to his infidelity. This all happened when I first met her. Throughout our relationship, he'd been sniffing around at various intervals over the past 7 years. After D-Day, she admitted to getting close with him and talked with him about reconciliation in 2020, but said she never had a physical affair with him. So I went to talk to him myself after D-Day, and he was quite forthcoming about his relationship with my wayward spouse. He said, around every year or so, she calls me up begging for money, jumps into my bed, promises me the moon for a week or two, then she ghosts me for another year. Once in a while, she will be out with me, and two of you would get into an argument, and she would be banging on my door at 3 a.m. She comes in, jump into my bed, and then in the morning, wonders how she got here. A year ago, she wrote me a big love letter saying she wanted to be with me, but I told her she had to prove it. I know she has a lot of guys, and she's even been with your ex-wife. The deeper you dig, the more upset you're going to get. The only way Brandon could have known about wayward spouse being with my ex-wife is if wayward spouse told him. Number 3, Jason, the father of her 16-year-old daughter. He lives in the other side of the country, and she said she hasn't seen him in over 10 years. He now has his own family with 2 to 3 children. After D-Day, she confessed that the two of them texted each other daily. Whenever she wants some money to help with her expenses, he would say that would be worth a titty pic, and she would send it to him. Number 4, Janet, my ex-wife. She was a cheater and an alcoholic, and that's why I left her. We shared a 14-year-old daughter together, and after a few years, slowly started building back a friendship. She met wayward spouse through me, such as child drop-offs and pickups, child's birthday party, and etc. Back in 2016 for Halloween, Janet came over to assist with trick-or-treat duties. She and wayward spouse ended up having drinks together on my porch, and when I fell asleep, putting my daughter to bed, and the two of them carried the party down at wayward spouse apartment, a few doors down on the same street. At 2 a.m., I woke up, texted wayward spouse, and asked what time Janet left. She said, "Oh, she just left my place not so long ago, and she's really drunk. Can I come up and talk to you?" When she arrived, she told me that Janet stroked her hair and tried to kiss her, but that she made it clear she wasn't interested. When I asked for details as to how this happened, wayward spouse walked back and said that she must have misread it and that nothing happened. This caused me to be suspicious, but believed wayward spouse. So when I met Brandon, he clarified my suspicion. Number 5. Sonia, a personal trainer girl she met at her gym. One night, a few years ago, the two of them went out to a club together. But first, they went to Sonia's apartment. Wayward spouse sent me a photo of two of them having a floor picnic complete with candles. Totally looked like a date. When she got home, she told me that they made out in the club. I told her that was cheating. She was surprised that I reacted that way and apologized. Sonia apparently moved across the country shortly after that. Number 6. Devin, the singer in my band and friend of mine. He's married with 2 kids. It was his text that I found on her phone. Their affair seemed to go back at least as far as early 2019. Their MO was that he would rent a hotel downtown during the day where they would swim and screw. Alternatively, he drove a van and he would pick her up and he would screw her in the back of it. Sometimes he would even wait after our gigs for wayward spouse and I to come home and me to fall asleep, and then she would go back out and meet him. We had him over for drinks plenty of times, and I had no idea anything was ever going on between them. They communicated via kick. Number 7. Gary, her uncle. Early in our relationship, she admitted to me that she had an actual relationship with one of her cousins prior to meeting me. In November 2019, she had a mental breakdown one evening, as she did several times through our relationship, and admitted to me that she had also had a consensual sexual relationship with 2 of her uncles, Derek and Gary, when she was younger. I had met these uncles and liked them very much. Not anymore. The thought of them made me sick, and I cut out any unnecessary contact with them. After D-Day, she confessed to me that during our relationship, she spent a night in bed with Gary and they smooched. Did it go further? Maybe, maybe not. He's old and lame from a car accident. He walks with a cane. The thought of her with him is revolting. Number 8. Mike. During the pandemic, we bubbled with a family that lives down the street. Husband, wife, and 2 kids. We would do game nights together with their family and ours. 4 adults and 4 kids total. Mostly, game nights were at my house, sometimes at Mike's. In March 2001, she told me that Mike was starting to creep her out. According to wayward spouse, he was telling her that I wasn't right for her and that the 2 of them were both the same kind of crazy and should be together, and that he's wanted to F her since they all came to one of my gigs several years prior. The story continued that his father was on his deathbed, and if he divorced his wife prior to the death, then he stood to inherit a lot of money and wouldn't have shared it with his wife. When she told me this, she said that it all came out of the blue and that she had no part in it, but not to worry, she nipped it in the bud. However, he kept persisting, and she not only didn't want me to confront him, but no way should I tell his wife either. She said any such confrontation would negatively impact her mental health. Forward me a text that he sent her that clearly stated he had thoughts the 2 of them should be together. I immediately put a stop to game night and confronted him, but at the time I said nothing to his wife. After D-Day, wayward spouse confessed to me that she was meeting up with him downtown for coffee, lunch, shopping, and etc. And then, one day, he took her to pay by the hour hotel downtown. She claimed that once she understood that that's what it was, she tried to back out, said no, let's go home. She said she was uncomfortable and didn't want to do it, said no a bunch of time in the lobby. But once he coerced her up to the room, she said, I stopped saying no. I knew it was going to happen. She said that she talked to her sister and a therapist afterward about the experience, that both of them said it was RAPE. She said, I wouldn't go as far as to call it that. A few days after D-Day happened, I didn't know yet about the excursions downtown or the hotel room. I told Mike's wife what I thought I knew happened at the time, that he was propositioning her, but I didn't know she had played a part in it, or if anything ever happened. She confronted her husband. As far as I know, Mike and Wayward's spouse has spun enough of a story to make it seem like either nothing happened and that I am the crazy one, or that their involvement was far less than it really was. Mike's wife now walked past my house and seemed to try to avoid me. She told me that she doesn't want to know if something else happened. I told her that I respect that, and I have not tried to tell her Wayward's spouse's confession of the hotel room. This once I never got confirmation of anything physical happening. Number 9, Randy, a friend of mine from a previous band I was in. She met him briefly several times through me. He was liking her social media posts and commenting with positive messages. From there, it spilled into IM chats and then to text. I had no idea. One day, she and I were discussing something, and she mentioned nonchalantly that she had been texting with him earlier today. My reaction, what? You and Randy text each other? I asked her to show me. She agreed to, but we were in the middle of something, so she said later. Foolishly, I agreed. Even then, when she did show me, I had to scroll through miles of text to get to the beginning, January 2020. There were easily 10 texts daily between them. There were even smiling selfies shared back and forth. I told her that this was crossing a boundary, and he was clearly interested in her and was setting her up for a proposition. No, he's not like that, she said. I told her to wane it off and then ghost him. She offered me her passcode and told me I could look in her phone to check up on this anytime I wanted. She did indeed appear to be waning it off until a few weeks later, we went to a friend's cottage. She sent him selfie pic in a bikini. I told her this was a big mistake and that he would take it as an invitation. Several hours later, she came to me and said, I was right. He texted her back, I want to F your brains out. I told her she had to ghost him. She claimed to have and would show me his follow-up attempt to salvage the situation. Walked back that he said he wanted to F her, but then a few things he said didn't quite add up, that she never replied. There was never an admission of her meeting up with him or a physical affair, but it would obviously be naive to believe that. Number 10, James, some friend she had prior to us dating. He sent her a profile selfie of himself and all his abs glory and his package in a pair of green boxers, proclaiming Happy St. Paddy's Day. She showed it to me when she received it. This actually happened with several of her former friends early in our relationship. She'd come to me and say, oh my God, not again. Look what always happens to me. And she would appear genuinely upset. This made me trust her and believe they were unsolicited and unreciprocated. Number 11, Kevin, a friend of one of her uncles. I met him once and 3 of us went back to her uncle's house and spent an evening playing music together and singing. He also visited our city once and the 2 of them went for a walk together. When I found the text of the 3-year affair with the singer of my band, I also found that she saved a love letter from the guy, Kevin, that alludes to an event they shared together that was magical and that he loves her, etc. She denies anything ever happened with him, that he simply got fixated on her and sent it unsolicited. Over the course of our relationship, she did return to visit the city where her uncles and this guy live, so they likely had at least one night together. Number 12, Gavin, her friend's dad. When I found her text from Randy above, she said, oh, and just so you know, I also text regularly with Gavin, but that there's definitely nothing going on. I looked at their text, not as extensive as with Randy, and minus the selfies, but seems like an emotional affair nonetheless. Who does that with their friend's dad? Number 13, Miller, her cousin's husband. Wayward's spouse told me for several years that he was always saying that he was extremely lonely and his wife lacked affection, dead bedroom, and that he liked leaning on my wayward spouse for support. She said that she would avoid being alone with him, but that she would text him frequently. After D-Day and I turfed her, she went and stayed with her cousin and Miller for a night. The next day, Miller drove her home and walked her inside. She says that Miller kissed her and she pushed him away. Several days later, Wayward's spouse and I were talking about the possibility of reconciliation, and we were looking at her phone together. A WhatsApp message arrived from Miller saying, hi, I just wanted to say I hope you're having a good day and that I hope everything is okay between us. Number 14, Derek, the other uncle. He's around my age. We would go stay at his place, out of town, somewhat frequently, and she would visit often without me. They always have a touchy-feely vibe to them. She always told me that they were close, that they have a lot of the same mental health issues. Whenever I go with her, We would have to sleep over. I would wake up in the morning and she would be in his bed talking. I raised this as a concern, but she said it's purely platonic and I shouldn't worry. When she had a mental breakdown and admitted to sexual relationship with two of her uncles and one cousin, this was one of the uncles. It made me ill. I almost broke up with her. After that, I only ever saw this uncle whenever it was absolutely necessary. Throughout our relationship, other guys would come sniffing around too. There's probably more affairs she had, but who knows? Yes, I went and got tested immediately. I didn't get a call back. Which way I'm from means it's all negative, but I have booked a follow-up for next week just to make sure. And this